With each trip to Truk, our efforts to find the exact whereabouts of the Taiho Maru had proven unsuccessful. None of the dive guides at the Blue Lagoon resort had ever dived the wreck, even their most experienced guide, Mackenzie. Brad Van Isek, the resort's owner, was a dive guide in 1994 and had dived it then, but hadn't been back since. At the start of another visit in January 2017, we decided to have another go at finding her. Gradvan gave Mackenzie his best recollection of the marks, and the next day we set about the task, just off Pfeiffer Island. Mackenzie dropped anchor several times, but unsuccessfully. Max's simple suggestion that we take the boat forward 50 metres saw us hook into something immediately, but to what? We both quickly geared up and headed down the line, only to be passed by our very excited boat driver. Just 15 metres down, the hull of the Taiho Maru came into view below us. The wreck was discovered by Sam Redford in 1972. Dan Bailey's book describes her as rather uninteresting, but our initial inspection didn't fit that description. The aft section lies in a valley surrounded by sandhills at a maximum depth of 45 metres. Sitting on her port side, this section of the wreck is reasonably intact. The prop is almost always brightly lit because of the reflection of the sand. Taiho's stern has an unusual, angular shape. As a war vessel, this type of stern was apparently easier and quicker to build. The Taiho was loaded with aviation gas when she blew up, splitting the ship in two. Early divers to the wreck reported being burnt by the fuel, and so she was rarely dived. It is possible to enter the rear hold and swim through the entire ship. There are various pieces of machinery, pumps, and of course many rusted oil drums. Footage taken in 1994 showed a gun fitted to the stern, but it has since fallen off and is buried in the sand. Scores of rusty fuel drums have spilled out of the rear two holds. Their contents have dissipated over time, and they are no longer a threat to divers as once described. Questions have been raised about the threat the remaining oil in the shipwrecks poses to the area, with plans for a vessel to mount a mission to Truk to remove the residual oil. Interestingly, the ships above which an oil slick can most often be seen are both coal-fired steamships. This oil seen above the Nagano is likely to be lubrication for the engine, and in quite small quantities. It has gradually leaked from the wrecks for over 75 years with no adverse effect to the area. Early divers reported being burnt by the oil carried as cargo on the Hanakawa and the Hoki, but that has also dissipated. There can be no doubt all the wrecks still contain some oil. Whether it will ever be a threat to the environment is set to be investigated. The usual winches associated with loading are festooned in marine growth. The Taiho's mast and crosstree touches the sea floor. Several days after finding the stern section, we located the bow. Adventurous divers can head in the direction the mast points and follow a winding gully between sandhills, past small and large pieces of wreckage for about 70 metres.
The swim between the sandhills can be quite exhausting, especially towing a 25 kilo camera. We came around the corner and there it was, the first 10 metres of the Taiho's bow. Laying on her starboard side with her nose pointed into the ground. Very few visitors to Truk Lagoon have ever seen this section of the vessel. Her port anchor is laid out and leads right to the top of a sandhill. It is possible to enter this section of the wreck, but there's little to see. It appears everything was destroyed in the explosion. We spent a considerable amount of time trying to get this footage of the bow, but each time we went there we were met by very poor water quality. Then finally, what was to be our last trip, the conditions improved.
Lindemann mentions the remains of 2 landing barges that had been tied up along the side. However, we did not positively identify any pieces of the crafts. The point of impact, the boiler room. The Taiho was a victim of her own cargo. Finding the lost Taiho came just a few days after locating the small coastal vessel off Uman, adding another wreck to the list available to divers, and a great memory to our project on the wrecks of Truk Lagoon.